Hello, welcome back to Plumbing College. Today we have a faulty central heating pump and it needs to be replaced. So this session will focus on safely isolating the electrics and installing temporary bonding for when the pump is removed. Let's assume that the system has already been drained.
The first thing we're going to do before we remove the pump is to put a bonding link across the pipework to ensure that earth continuity is still present. This bonding link, the purchase of in any plumbing retailer, this would be approximately 10 mil. Now we need to use the correct equipment for doing safe isolation. One proving unit, a GS38 approved tester. We need to check this equipment is functioning correctly. And you can see that it's actually functioning correctly. So we know the unit is working. As you can see, the pump is live. And the reason it's not making a noise is because there's no water flow. Now we need to go to the fuse connection unit for the pump, and we need to safely isolate the supply to the pump. So the next thing we're going to do is turn off the fuse connection unit. If you do not turn it off, some of these you will not be able to remove the fuse because there's a locking device inside the unit. So make sure this is turned off. Remove the 3 amp fuse. And then we need to use a locking off kit. This is the device which we're going to be using. This is a very tiny locking off kit, which we can lock this off. And this is how it goes on. Reason we're locking this off, because this could be a distance away from where you're working and someone could turn the supply back on, endangering a situation. You do the little grub screw up. Reasonably tight, not too tight or you'll damage. And you can see this cannot push back in. Even if we was to put the fuse back in, you can see that you cannot push it back in so it doesn't make connection. Right, this is the locking off device, and what we have to do now is put the approved padlock on and the label to say this has been locked off. This is the approved padlock, and it comes with a unique key. So you unlock it, you put the label through the padlock, then into the locking off device. Lock the padlock, and you can see there's a label on there saying do not turn on. The key this key you must put in your pocket. You cannot leave it. If you leave it, then you're endangering yourself. The next bit is to undo the fuse connection unit and to check the supply has been isolated before we remove the pump. We have to go through a stage of safe isolation. Right, this is inside the fuse connection unit, and you can see that it is connected. Now, before we can go in with our approved voltage indicator, we have to test its functioning correctly. This is the proving unit to prove our electrical equipment to GS38 is working correctly. GS38 is about the probe lengths, cannot be no more than 3 millimeter. You can see that the approved voltage indicator is indicating more than 230 volts. You've got red and blue on here. Red tells you it's active and blue tells you it's indicating a voltage. We know this equipment is functioning correctly. And to prove the supply is still live to this, we can go on the live side of the fuse connection unit and you will see this would indicate it's live. So the live side of the fuse connection unit is at the bottom here. Supply is the mains supply coming into the fuse connection unit, and the load is circuit to the pump. prove we have got a live supply here, we can go on the live side of the circuit. On this particular unit is on the bottom here. You have the neutral in the bottom here and the live here. So we go neutral first, then we go live. And you can see that the circuit is live. This is the correct way of clicking it, always onto the neutral first, then live. And you can see this is the supply there. If you was to do it this way round, live first, then neutral, that's very dangerous. We know we've isolated the secondary side of the fuse connection unit. So if we go on the outgoing terminals to the pump, you will see that there is no connection. Now, if you notice, it has to be neutral first, then live. When you're taking off, it's live first, then neutral. So we checked the live supply. We should always check between neutral and earth to make sure that's okay. Again, there is no connection, which is correct. Also, we should check between live and earth to make sure that's correct. Now that tells us there's no supply. Now we've checked that we've done 3 tests on this fuse connection unit, which feeds the pump. Now we need to recheck our equipment and make sure it was functioning. Back to the proving unit, and you can see it's working. So now that is safe to remove the pump. Just for a matter of safety, we'll just reconnect this temporary to hold this in place so nothing can fall inside while there's a live connection in there.
Right, so we can now safely remove the pump. So we've got continuity here, and we can also remove the electrics to the pump. So in plumbing, this technique could also be applied to central heating boilers, immersion heaters, macerators. So always safely isolate your electrics. Don't get an electric shock. And many thanks to Brian for his demonstration. Now you know how to safely isolate electrics. It's your turn to have a go.